At 15, you already knew
Yeah.
what you were going to do and how you were going to do it. And since you mentioned Nina Simone, I bring this up with artists all the time when I interview them here on Washington Post
Yes.
Live, and she famously said, "An artist's duty is to reflect the times." And so I want to use
Yes.
that saying of hers to get you to talk about Human Level and how Human Level reflects the times. What inspired you to create that program?
Well, we just launched Human Level, and Human Level is focusing in on local government, working in our cities, working in our counties, and saying on a human level, how do we connect with the issues that the folks in these cities are dealing with? How do we address big systemic issues on a local level? And we started Human Level with an organization called Fuse Corps, which has been working in cities for a long time, putting fellows into communities trying to solve problems for the mayors and for the city leaders. And we wanted to have a special focus thinking about, what we've all been through over the past 2 years with COVID, with George Floyd, and all these other issues that the nation has been dealing with, but looking at it from a local perspective. How do we deal with the activist community, the organizer community? How do we work with the entire community to listen to the concerns that people are dealing with, and then have people whose mission in their roles in local government is particularly to listen and learn and to govern in a way that makes these local governmental systems more equitable. So they're answering questions like, how do we reallocate our budget so we care more about mental health issues than about incarcerating people? How do we make sure that vaccine access is throughout the city and not just in certain neighborhoods? How do we make sure we look at environmental racism and the ways that that's affected certain communities? How do we make sure that when we're planning future development and when we're planning zoning and all these other things, that we're thinking about everyone in the community, not just the powerful few? So we've hired some amazing folks, amazing fellows in 11 cities, 50 fellows who are going to be in their communities at the behest of the mayors and the city leaders, saying, how do we focus on equity from our role here in city government? How do we make sure that these systems are responsive to the entire community and are providing the kind of support that the entire community needs?
Yeah, and one of those 11 cities is Washington, D.C. I also know Atlanta and Birmingham, Alabama. Let me get you to talk about the Free America campaign, which is focused on voting rights.
Mhm.
What specifically are you doing in that realm?
Well, Free America was a campaign we started a while ago. It's funny you mentioned Nina Simone. When I received the Oscar for Glory, along with my brother Colin, I was on stage and I literally quoted that quote, that it's an artist's duty to reflect the times that we live in. And I also said from that stage that America was the most incarcerated country in the world. And that's the truth. We incarcerate so many people, and at a higher rate than any other major country in the world. And so it's not just a number. Those are families, those are members of communities, and their families are affected, their communities are affected, and it's also very expensive to do. And so we decided to found Free America as a campaign where we would, one, listen and learn, go around, visit prisons, visit jails, visit all the stakeholders, and then try to make serious change so that we begin the process of decarcerating, changing the laws, changing the practices. I personally have supported progressive district attorneys whose goal it is to think differently about incarceration and how we use it. And we've, over the last several years, made a lot of headway when it comes to changing policies and procedures that have locked up far too many people in this country. But particularly when you talk about voting rights, we've also focused on making sure that people who are incarcerated and formerly incarcerated are able to have a voice in our elections. In Florida, we helped pass Amendment 4, which made it possible for over 1 million people who had felony convictions to be able to get their right to vote back. And we've been working throughout the country on voting rights legislation in various states who had restrictive rules around people who had felony convictions. And we're trying to include these folks in our franchise to make sure that everyone has their voices heard in their local elections, their national elections. We're all represented by the people that we elect, and we're all affected by the decisions they make. And so we believe everyone should have the right to vote and have a say in those elections, even if they've made a mistake, even if they've been convicted of a crime.